Hey guys, Kay here, and these are 5 things that you need to know when you're applying for your first role as a software developer. Number 1 is understanding APIs. Now, APIs are really important. I've got a really good video on API basics in 5 minutes that I'll link above, but you should get familiar with using APIs, how to get data and how to receive data. All programming languages, they will have some kind of library for you to interact with APIs, usually wrapped around some kind of HTTP get requests, so to get the data, and HTTP put requests, so to send data to an API. And regardless of whether you go for a front-end or back-end role, you will be interacting with APIs in some way, so it's really important to get used to using them in your own code. One good website that I've used is Rapid API, and they have loads of fun free APIs to use, so I'll link that below as well for you guys to check out. But that brings me back to a story that I recalled from some applicants that applied for a junior developer position, and they were given a technical task to do where they had to use an API that was given to them, and using that API they had to return someone's favorite programming language by the user's name. And one person, I remember, they basically hard-coded in the programming language rather than using the API in their code, and they wrote Python for every single test case, and in comments they wrote because Python is the best language. So needless to say, they did not get an offer, and yeah, that's definitely the wrong way to do it. You shouldn't be hard-coding in things like that when you have to use an API to get that data. Number 2 are OOP principles. OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming, and even if when you're not working with an OOP language, you still have to know those core OOP concepts to apply to writing clean, scalable architecture. And I'm going to be talking a lot about programming concepts that you do need to know. So OOP concepts include things such as encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, and polymorphism. Now, taking encapsulation as an example, this is when you're going to start to get introduced to concepts such as, why would I have private classes? Why can't I just make everything public, for example? Now, in terms of myself, as well as other people that I know, OOP questions are very commonly asked in junior level position interviews. Even more senior position interviews, they will ask some questions around OOP concepts. So myself, I got asked a question in an interview where I had to take a bicycle and I had to explain how that bicycle was built using classes, and then I had to then explain how I would use the classes within a bike to construct a car. And number 3 is writing testable code. Now obviously you should be familiar with testing frameworks, so all programming languages will have some kind of testing framework that you can use. So JavaScript has Jasmine and Jest, C# has NUnit, Ruby has RSpec, so you should already be familiar with these and writing your own unit tests. Now, to write testable, scalable code means your code doesn't have too many dependencies within, say, certain methods. So for example, a lot of people, when they create a method, they'll create a new instance of a class in that method. You shouldn't be doing things like that. You should be abstracting that out, so you should have the ability to pass a class in and then do something with that class in your method, for example. And that way, when you write when you come to testing your code, you can just pass in, say, a fake class, so a mock. You can mock even API requests, so you don't make an API request to an actual API, you have like a fake API to make sure that your code is doing what it should be doing. And adding on to writing scalable code, you should obviously then start to get more familiarized with design patterns. So MVC is a very common basic design pattern. And obviously become more familiarized with concepts such as using interfaces and dependency injection in your code as well. Number 4 is databases. Now, this is really important, and a lot of people, when they're starting out, they might be using text files to store data, or if you're a multi-billion pound company tasked with creating a track and trace application for COVID, then you might store your data in 2003 Excel spreadsheets, which is definitely the wrong way to do it. You should understand the core fundamental concepts such as using a primary key, a foreign key, and even more fundamentally than that, just understand why you're using a database. Because your user, when they're interacting with your application, that data then may need to get stored in a database. They might need to retrieve some kind of data or update existing data. All of this is really fundamental when you're building enterprise level applications. Number 5 is getting comfortable with CI/CD. Now, CI stands for continuous integration, and CD stands for continuous deployment. Now, I've spoken to quite a lot of fresh computer science graduates who are going for their first role, and they've never actually encountered CI/CD before. And this is a really, really important concept. I got quizzed about this in my first interview as well. And basically, this stems from traditionally when developers, they would write large code bases and then deploy it in one go. So this would be known as the waterfall method. But nowadays, developer teams, they'll work something called agile or some form of agile where they create sort of like a minimal product which has the bare bones, the basic features, and they'll release that for a client. And then periodically in sprints, so maybe every 2 weeks, they'll add a couple of extra features to it, and they'll just continuously release new feature after new feature. And the advantage of doing it this way is, one, your client gets a product straight away, or a lot earlier than they would do if it all got released maybe a year down the line. Two, if you encounter any bugs and your code breaks, you can just revert to the previous feature, which might have been the one that you released 2 weeks ago, rather than encountering a bug when you come a year from now releasing it, and then you've got a year's worth of code to kind of navigate through, and it becomes really, really hard to kind of figure out what it is that's wrong. And that really does slow down your time to production as well. So continuous deployment, that's essentially the process of how you're going to go about deploying your code base and how it's going to be built. So AWS and Azure are two commonly used platforms. I use Microsoft Azure in my workplace, and you can sign up for free accounts to either, and they give you free credit as well. There are free options available as well, so Heroku is one. Obviously there are limitations to the number of applications you can deploy in Heroku and the size of those applications, but it's a free one. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through, guys. These were 5 things that you need to know when you're going for your first role as a junior developer. So like always, guys, if you found this helpful, please do like and subscribe to support my content, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.